Hey VC, Wes here, checking in again with another episode of the Vinyl Survivor. This is where we take 5 albums from the inbox down below there and clean them up, give them a spin, and see if there's anything good there or whether there's something I want to have in my collection or not. So let's go ahead and get into it. Okay, so the first thing we have here was actually a birthday gift for me this year from my partner. This is the debut album from Florence and the Machine, called Lungs, from 2010. Florence and the Machine, if you're not familiar with them, they're a very sort of art rock, art pop sort of group. Very lush sounding, rich sounding female vocals mixed with some lush sort of instrumentation. There's the gatefold. Really cool group. I actually bought their second album a couple years ago when it came out, and I've been wanting this for a long time and just haven't bought it. So it was really cool to get this for my birthday from my partner. It's really great to finally have this in the collection. So if you're into things like Kate Bush and stuff like that, give Florence and the Machine a try. You might like her. On the inner sleeve here, we got some photos. Some lyrics, some pretty neat custom labels. But yeah, this debut album was really good. There's a lot more variety as far as styles. There's some stuff that rocks a little harder on here than the second album. The second album is just extremely lush, rich sounding kind of stuff. It has a very uniform sound to it. Not that I don't like the second album. I like the second album a lot. That's sort of what I like about Florence and the Machine is the very lush, very rich sounding music. And so this has some of that, and it has some other sort of things that rock a little bit more. But overall, absolutely happy to have this in my collection finally. Okay, the second thing we have up for review today is the Jimi Hendrix Experience BBC sessions. The BBC would put on these sort of radio shows where they would have an artist come over, they would do a really quick recording session, and then they would make a radio show out of it. And Jimi Hendrix Experience did a few of those, so this is a collection of all the recordings that they did when they did those few sessions that they were able to do. I think it had something to do with sort of the legal rights of playing things. They had to play things that were recorded in the UK or something to do with that. So very unique look into some sort of live sounding studio tracks, and just another piece for the Jimi Hendrix collector. So this is a 3 LP set, a lot of tracks on here. Pictures there, as well as there. And there's also a book, as usual, with this stuff that sort of goes into more of the history of the recordings and all that. But a really cool collection. Initially, this was released in '98. I don't know when this vinyl pressing was done. 2010. Yeah, I know that it hasn't been on vinyl for real long, but cool pickup. I had some Best Buy reward zone points, and I don't know, I went into the store like 2 or 3 times and just couldn't find anything to buy, so finally I just went online and ordered this and used my reward zone points towards it. So overall it didn't cost me very much to get this, maybe 10 bucks. But another cool piece for the Jimi Hendrix collection. I was glad to be able to add this in. If you're a total completist on Jimi Hendrix, then this is cool. You find it for really cheap, it may be a fun listen. Otherwise, you don't really need to have this. There's nothing groundbreaking here. Some interesting alternate takes and time capsules of history, I guess I would say. The occasional fun banter you hear in between recordings and stuff. Alright, next up is a classic, something that doesn't need much talking about. I'm sure most of you have heard this. If not, you need to go out and get it. Van Morrison's third album, Moondance, 1970 is when this was released. Sort of a blue-eyed soul, kind of folky sort of sound to it. Just really awesome music. Good Sunday morning kind of music as far as I'm concerned. Get Stoned Me, and what else is on here? Moondance, of course, Crazy Love. Pretty much every song on here is a classic. Great album all the way through. Gatefold here. And this copy I have here is actually a later repress because it's on the Palm Tree Warner Brothers label. This is a later issue of this album. Difficult one to find these days just because it's, you know, people have sort of rediscovered it, and you just don't see it out in the wild much. And actually, I bought this one probably 20 years ago at least. I've had this for quite a while, and it's just been, you know, I haven't started really sort of going through and sort of organizing and cleaning everything just until just the past few years. So this is something I've sort of had for a long time, but it's not officially been in the collection until now. Van Morrison Moondance, definitely a must-have for anybody. At least give it a try. I think it's very accessible. Most people will love this, and yeah, going in the collection. Next up is another classic album from 1970. This is the third studio album from Neil Young, After the Gold Rush. This is another one I bought probably 20 years ago. I've had this album for a very long time, and it's another one that's sort of just been floating around in the inbox. You know, I played it a lot, but I never really went through the sort of cleaning process and serious listening. Great album from Neil Young. I think this is the first Neil Young album I ever bought. After the Gold Rush, Southern Man. There's that classic picture of him that they used on the Greatest Hits album. This just sort of has a generic inner sleeve with the Lost Leaders on it. And this is on the Reprise record label. So that's Neil Young's After the Gold Rush, classic album from 1970. Absolutely going in the collection. Been building a Neil Young collection slowly but surely. There's quite a bit in the inbox. This is only the second one that's actually going in the collection. I imagine most of them, if not all of them, are going to be ending up in the collection. But I'm glad to finally have this one cleaned up and able to listen to it at any time now. Alright, and the last album we have on the chopping block today, another closing out with another jazz album as we did in the last episode. This is Herbie Hancock's Future Shock. 1983, I believe, is when this was released. And this was when he did sort of an electro jazz, hip-hop sort of thing, mixture of the genres. A really cool idea. I really like it a lot. I wish it would have caught on. I wish more people would have tried this. I really do like the blending of the hip-hop and the jazz together, sort of the fusion jazz and hip-hop. I think it works really well together, and I would have liked to have seen more of it, but it sort of has the hit song Rocket from Grandmaster DST art, and this was paid $2.50 for this at the library sale, so I don't know why they marked it so high. That's pretty high for the library sale, but it was an album I knew I wanted, so I paid it. Yeah, this is on Columbia Records. So yeah, if for some reason you haven't heard this and you think a jazz fusion meets hip-hop sounds interesting to you, definitely recommend giving this a try. I love it. It's going in the collection. So yeah, Herbie Hancock, Future Shock. So yeah, that's another 5 albums from the inbox. All 5 made it again. Really good batch of records in here, and I want to thank you for watching. Leave me some comments if you would, or at least a thumbs up, and we'll see you again real soon. Cheers.